I'm going to share a little bit about my mom here. My mom had always, right next to her seat, she sat at the end of a couch. She always had this one spot right at the end of the couch. I don't know why that was her spot. It could have been a good view of the TV. It could have been, I don't know. There's only one reason I can say she picked that spot, and that was because it was a really good place to hide chocolate graham crackers, right next to the couch, hidden right back here. You would never know they were there unless you stumbled upon them. Well, one day I did that. I stumbled upon them. I saw that they were back there. So what I did was I thought, there's no way I'm going to get a chocolate graham cracker just by walking up and taking it. So I decided what I would do is behind the couch. She was sitting in her spot on that couch, and I decided I'm going to crawl behind the couch. So I crawled behind the couch, and it's all, you're looking with your fingers at that point. So I'm just feeling and like, found the graham crackers. I pulled them out. I pulled a graham cracker out, and then I marine crawled my way back to the other side of the couch. What I did not know is my mom was now sitting on that seat with her hand like this. She's still not making eye contact with me, but she knew I had a chocolate graham cracker in my hand. She had her hand like this, and I'm like, would you like chocolate graham cracker? So I gave the cracker to my mom. That day, I did not get a chocolate graham cracker. She said, if you would have asked, I would have given you one. I said, then can I have a chocolate graham cracker? And she said, no. Stealing does not pay off. So I did not get one. Now, the next day I went to her and I said, could I have a chocolate graham cracker? And she said, absolutely, and gave me one. Moms share all the time, and they also instill valuable lessons in our life, sometimes the hard way. When you have to give that back to your mom, it hurts your soul when you have to give that graham cracker back to your mom. But she taught me a valuable lesson that day. But moms are always sharing things with their kids. They're sharing things with other people. And I'm not just talking about possessions and items. You're sharing life lessons, and you're sharing so much with the next generation. I'm going to ask you today to do me a favor. Would you share this service that you are supposed to be honored in, and you will be honored in? I'd like you to share this with all the ladies in this room that are not moms. For the younger generation, I'm going to ask you one more time, would you go ahead and do that thing you do and go ahead and share? Take the honor yourself, but also extend that honor to these young ladies who they're not moms. One day they may be moms, or they may not be moms. But I want you to pass this honor to them also. I'm thankful for a day that we get to focus on you. I am grateful that our country recognizes this day. We live in a time where truth is collided with opinion. Now it's said that you can be whatever your opinion says. Its opinion is the number one thing. It doesn't necessarily mean truth. In 1981, William J. Casey, the director of the CIA, made this statement, and I just saw this recently, and it just blew my mind. He said, "We'll know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false." 1981. That's a huge statement right there. Once everything they believe is false, we know this program is over. Truth cannot be changed just because we don't like what it is. That is absolutely a valid statement. Truth doesn't change because we don't like what it is. Femininity is under attack just as much as masculinity is these days. Both sides of this. There's an attack on who we are as God's creation. And a lot of moms carry the burden of not being enough. And even more today than they did years ago. You feel like you're not enough. And I could ask you to raise your hands right now, but I can already see on a lot of your faces that statement is true also. We just don't feel like we're cutting it. We just don't feel like we're enough. God created men and women different, and He created us to balance out society, and this is a balance that society is trying to tip. Well, I just want to go ahead and state it as a fact. God set up a perfect balance. And if we keep that balance, we don't have to worry about anything. God made you specific. God made me specific. God focused on us and put the love and the care into the person that is sitting in your seat right now. You were specific. You were fearfully and wonderfully made. That's who He created. So today I want to take another look at what it means to be a mom, but I also want to spread it a little farther into femininity as a whole. And guys, that doesn't mean you're sitting here like, oh man, I showed up to a girl church today. Man, I rolled the dice and lost on that one. No, this applies to us too, okay? Because believe it or not, masculinity is also under attack. So we can take this same truth and apply it to our lives also. I feel that if we don't take time to speak to moms and to possible future moms, then our future moms will be lacking some important information that they need. So I do want to talk to the moms today, but I also want to talk to possible future moms. And there are scenarios where the women may even want to be a mom and they just can't, they will never be a mom. That does exist. That was our story. My wife, I was 10 years, we could not have children. We thought that was going to be her story, but God changed things and we were able to have 4 children. But that doesn't always work out for everybody. So Mother's Day is a hard one for some people to go through because even though they long to be a mother, they can't be a mother. So today we're going to go ahead and take Mother's Day. We're going to honor you, but not only honor you as a mom, but as a woman, as a lady. We want to honor you because I think that's right to do. I want to do this by using a story that doesn't even mention a mom in it in the Bible, but it does speak to every mother and every lady out there. And men, masculinity is under attack also, so this sermon does apply to us also. As I was writing this sermon this week, I'm like, man, I don't know, I feel like I'm writing a sermon about myself. Even though I'm talking about femininity as a whole, I can apply this to masculinity also. So don't sit there and think, I got nothing out of today. God's word's meant for you too, and it applies to you even today. What God created, He created on purpose and for a purpose, and that is you. That is you. Not just, God so loved the world. That includes all of us. Yeah, but He also said, whosoever will may come. Every one of you are that definition of whosoever will. So He's talking about the individual, and He's talking about His love for the world. We don't have the right to determine what truth is. That is God's job. So let's go there. Let's go to God. In this story, Jesus is walking along, and then He gets interrupted by a man with an incredible burden. This guy is really feeling the pressure on him right now, and it's an urgent need he has. Look at Mark chapter 5. Let's go there this morning. Mark chapter 5 and verse 22, we open this up with a kind of a crisis that this guy's having. Look at verse 22. And behold, one of the rulers of the synagogue came, Jairus by name. And when he saw him, he fell at his feet and begged him earnestly, saying, my little daughter lies at the point of death. Come and lay your hands on her that she may be healed, and she will live. So Jesus went with him, and a great multitude followed him and thronged him. A man named Jairus finds out that Jesus is there, and he begs Jesus to come and heal his daughter. My daughter's about to die, and I need your help. You're the only answer. I need you to come and heal my daughter, or she's going to die. I really need your help here. And Jesus does later on go and heal Jairus' daughter. And actually, Jairus' daughter did die, and Jesus vetoed that. So Jesus said, it's not the end. And He brings her back to life. But while He's trying to get to her, it says He was thronged by the people. That means the people came in from every side, and they're on every side of Jesus. They are pushing against Him. So there's a crowd of people. Jesus is walking down the street, and this crowd comes in, and they are pressing against Jesus. He's being thronged by these people. And these people want something from Him. Jesus is surrounded by society itself on this day. And each person will come from different walks of life, and they will have different issues. They have different concerns. They have different things that they want Jesus' attention for. They need Jesus at this time, and we don't know what each of these burdens were. We don't know what these people are carrying. But God does inspire Mark to focus in on one individual in the crowd. We get to know her story. We get to know about this one individual, and she was the one person who shouldn't have even been there. That crowd had a lot of people in there, but there was one lady who wasn't even supposed to be in that crowd that day, and she's in that crowd, and God inspires Mark, the writer of the book of Mark, to tell us about her story. Not about everybody else's, but about hers. Look at verse 25. Now a certain woman had a flow of blood for 12 years, and had suffered many things from many physicians. She had spent all that she had and was no better, but rather grew worse. According to Leviticus 15, this woman would have been considered unclean for as long as she had this ailment. As long as she had this physical problem, she was considered unclean. She wasn't allowed to touch anyone. Anywhere that she would sleep, anywhere that she would make her bed, that bed was considered to be unclean. Anybody that she would touch, that person would now be considered to be unclean. The system, the law, set up a huge standard here. And it is a picture, if you look at Leviticus 15, it is a picture of Christ being, if it's fulfilled in Christ, that he came and wiped away our iniquity and made us clean. So it is a type that points to Christ. So it's a legal thing. God set this up, but according to this law, according to the system, this woman would be considered unclean for as long as she had this ailment. And it says that she had this for 12 years. She was an outcast in society. You're not supposed to be around people. You're considered unclean. So for 12 years, this lady has been looking for help. She spent all her money and she went to doctors, and it says that instead of getting better, she actually became worse. The doctors did everything they could, and her situation got worse. It wasn't improving. Then one day the crowd starts stirring and she hears that Jesus is back in town. Now this is where the story gets really awesome. She's going through this. She's out of money now. She's spent everything she has. She's out of resources. And then the crowd starts stirring and she's probably wondering what's going on. And like, well, Jesus is here. Then it clicks. I'm out of resources. I'm out of money. I can't pay for a doctor. There's nobody that can help me. 12 years into this problem and there's nobody with any answers. Who's back? Jesus is back. Jesus is back in town. Then it's time to do something. She sees the crowd gathering in one spot and she decides to make a bold move. She determines that it's time to break a few rules. Oh, ladies, when you do this, it scares the bejeebies out of me. When you guys decide to do something like, we're going to do things different, don't do it different. I'm just getting used to the normal. I've just figured it out this far. Don't change it on me. And then you guys go ahead and change things up, and it scares me a little bit. So stop that, okay? Just, there you go. There you go. You are dismissed. Thank you. Stop that. No, this lady decides, let's go ahead and break some rules. And these are big rules that she wants to break. It's time to go against what society says is proper and reach out to somebody who can override the system. She decides, I'm going to go ahead and go outside of what society says is right. And I'm going to go to the one person who can override the system of society. Jesus is here. I'm going straight to him. Look at verse 27. When she heard about Jesus, she came behind him in the crowd and touched his garment. For she said, if only I may touch his clothes, I shall be made well. Now we have an interesting situation in the story. According to the system, anything she touches would be unclean, right? That was the law. That was the system. Anything she touches would now be unclean. She just touched the hem of Jesus' garment. That, according to the law, would make Jesus unclean. According to the law, she broke. That's a big event. You broke Jesus. This is going to look bad on your resume. You broke the Son of God. According to the system, according to the law, that's exactly what she just did. She just made Jesus unclean. She broke Jesus. The only way for this not to be a problem was if the very second that she touched his clothes was the same second that she was no longer unclean herself. That is the only way for this not to be a problem. If you touch him and you are unclean yourself, then he will be made unclean. If any other scenario took place, then Jesus, the spotless Lamb of God, would have been unclean. That's the only way for this to work out. This bold move would have been detrimental if Jesus Christ wasn't who he said he was. Jesus has to be unclean. He's the spotless Lamb of God. There's never going to be a mark on his record ever. So if you're going to reach out and touch him, and according to the law, according to the system, you touch him, he's unclean. If he's not who he says he is, then you just ruined the whole thing. You broke Jesus. That's a big thing. So she reaches out and touches him. The only way for this scenario to work out is if the very second she touches him, she is also clean herself. That's the only way it would work out. If he wasn't who he said he was, then this would have been a detrimental detail of the story, but he was exactly who he says he was. Look at verse 29. Immediately, the fountain of her blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of the affliction. This woman had a problem that separated her from society and left her feeling like she had very little value. Just think about that. You can't be around people. You're alone. You're alone. Your children, if she had children, we don't know if she had children or not, but I mean, the hug of your child is something you would want, but you wouldn't want to make them unclean. Your husband, your friends, your family, your mom, your dad. You just want that embrace and you can't have it because you're unclean. So she feels like she has very little value in society. She's as desperate as she can be. So she runs into the crowd of people that she is not supposed to be anywhere near. She runs right into a middle, and there's a lot of people there. Remember, he's being pressed on every side. So she runs into this crowd of people. She's not supposed to be around people, but she runs right in there. And when she touches Jesus' clothes, she immediately is healed, and she knows it. It says she feels it within her body. She's healed. But now there's a new problem. Jesus has been affected. A lot of times we miss this. Jesus has been affected, and he hasn't become unclean. Remember, she was healed. The very second she touched him, she was healed. He remains pure. So it's not that he became unclean because she wasn't unclean herself upon contact. So that's not the problem. But something happened to him also. He felt a change in his body the same time that she felt a change in her body. Look at verse 30. And Jesus immediately, knowing in himself that power had gone out of him, turned around in the crowd and said, "Who touched my clothes?" So often we forget that Jesus was 100% human also. You know, we always read the Bible, say Jesus was all-knowing. Why was Jesus all-knowing? Because God is all-knowing. So he said, so Jesus knew everything that was coming his way. He knew it before it happened. Not necessarily so. Remember, he was 100% human too. How do we learn things? By experiences. We learn things. The Bible says that Jesus had to grow in knowledge and in stature. He became fully human. So he's learning as he goes too. Now he's in a crowd. Somebody touches him and he doesn't say, "What touched me?" What does he say? "Who did that?" You got a crowd of people moving down the street. She touches just the hem of his garment, just the edge of his garment, and he goes, "Stop, stop. Who did that? Who just touched me?" It doesn't say that he knew and he was testing them or anything like that. It said he wants to know who touched him. Yes, he's 100% God, but he took the form of a servant and placed himself into our shoes. So he gets to experience and learn and grow just like we do. Jesus felt the power leave him, and he stopped everything. Remember, he's on his way to Jairus' house. And now he's not running to Jairus' house anymore. He's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Who touched me? Look, and everybody's looking at him like, somebody's in trouble. Back away a little bit. He says, "Who touched me?" When he asked who touched me, the disciples were stumped at how to answer that question. Uh-oh. He's like, "Who touched me?" Look at their response in verse 31. But his disciples said to him, "You see the multitude thronging you, and you say, 'Who touched me?'" That's actually a decent response. Like, Jesus, there's like 1,000 people here. They're all touching. What do you mean, who touched you? Did you want us to narrow this down? What do you mean, who touched you? This seems like a dumb statement. So the disciples are like, "What are you talking about? What do you mean, who touched you? What kind of question is that? Everybody's touching you, Jesus. What the disciples didn't know that Jesus wasn't talking about a touch that went as deep as physical. He's talking about a touch that went far deeper than the physical touch. No. Somebody touched me not like everybody else is touching me. Somebody went a whole lot deeper than the physical. Who was that? Who was that? Somebody in that crowd just changed Jesus' life. Take that in for a second. Jesus was affected by the woman. We don't usually see that. We read right over and like, oh yeah, Jesus performed another miracle. But let's absorb that one for a second. Jesus was affected by her. And he wanted to know who did that. Who did that? Somebody just made a connection that nobody else in the crowd was making. There's a specific person that just affected my life. She changed my life. And I want to know who that was that showed up just now. Somebody just invested themselves in me, and I want to know who that person is. Who was that? When he felt the power go from him, he had to know who she was and where she was. The whole story stops right there. We're not going to Jairus' house anymore. We're going to find out who she is. Who touched me? And as he's looking around, he sees her. Something's different about this lady. She's the one in the crowd that would have an expression on her face that nobody else in the crowd had. This girl just stepped off into another part of life that nobody else in the crowd was experiencing at that time. There's a look on her face that's specific. There's probably a look of gratitude and most likely a look of shock. 12 years, not a single doctor could help me, and I caught a piece of thread, and it's okay now. It's all better. It's over. Try to take that one in for a second. 12 years of being an outcast in society, 12 years of not being able to feel that embrace, 12 years of being less than enough, and she touches the hem of his garment, and right then she knows it's over. It's all over. It's okay now. It's all right. She knows it's over because she felt the change happen within her own body. She knew it. But she also knows that Jesus knows. And he's trying to find out who. Now, she doesn't know what's going on in his mind. She just knows, oh my goodness, I did something here. And now he's like, who did that? Like, I don't know how this is going to play out, but I know that he did something to me. And then he makes eye contact with her. He looks at her. Look at verse 32. And he looked around to see her who had done this thing. But the woman, fearing and trembling, knowing what had happened to her, came and fell down before him and told him the whole truth. The second they make eye contact, she knows, he knows. That, you know that feeling. Okay, I'm busted. It's over. I know you know. She's afraid because she's aware that she did something to him. I don't know what I did, but I did something, and he knows it. She also knows that something happened to her, though. She knows that part. And she also knows that she's not supposed to be close to these people. And Jesus is a man of God. He is God himself. So if I just did something wrong, then I'm probably in trouble. But I needed to do this because I needed him. I needed him. So I don't know what Jesus' reaction is going to be, but he knows. He knows. I'm busted. And he looks at her. She may be relieved, but she's also terrified at the same time. She's terrified. So she tells Jesus everything. It says that she told him the whole truth. She tells him everything. And I don't know what everything consisted of. I don't know. But I do know that she told him everything. And then it was time for Jesus to respond. And Jesus' response gives us the answer to how she affected him. Remember, she knows she did something to him, but she also knows he just did something for her. I know what you did for me. I don't know what I did to you. But Jesus' response lets us know what she did to him. His life was affected the same second her life was affected. Look at his response in verse 34. And he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your affliction." At the beginning of this story, she was referred to as a certain woman. That is the description of this lady. It was a certain woman. Now she's referred to as daughter. Things have changed. Something incredible has changed in this story. We often notice what Jesus did for this lady, but we rarely, if ever, notice what she did for him. She changed everything for him that day. They both felt something change at that moment. They both felt it. Her plague was relocated, but so was his power. I just felt that power leave me. Who did that? For 12 years, this woman placed herself into the hands of the doctors. She placed her faith into resources and the medical industry. She placed everything into them. For 12 years, she was an outcast in society. For 12 years, she was less than good enough. This is what she's experiencing for 12 years. She was at the end of her rope, and she's out of money, and she's out of answers. And then she remembers Jesus. It clicks in her mind. She remembers Jesus. It says that she said within herself, "If I could only touch his clothes, I would be made well." So she knows who he is. She knows his reputation, and she says, if I could just get close enough, just to touch the hem of his garment, then I would be made well. She trusted that Jesus was the one she needed. She got down to the bottom of the barrel. That's my answer. I know he's the one I need. The moment she touched the hem of his garment, she thought, he healed me. That guy did it. He healed me. But at the very second she thought that, the very second when she reached out and touched the hem of his garment, he thought, she picked me. She chose me. She's saying he healed me, and he's saying she chose me. What an amazing thing that's happening right at that same second in this story. That was the moment when she placed herself under God's authority. That's when she determined that he was the only one who could give her the value she craved. He's the only one that can do this for me. When she reached out to Jesus, he felt her surrender. And once he felt that surrender, that's when something brand new happened. Yes, she was made whole. Yes, she is healed 100%. But something else happens at that same second. A relationship clicks. It clicks. I felt your surrender. Your faith isn't being put into the doctors. Your faith isn't being put into society and whatever comes from that. No, you just went ahead and submitted to me as the authority who could do this for you. In that moment, a relationship connected. Ladies, we live in a culture that does not see the value of femininity. And it's clear that they don't see the value of femininity. God created you specific, and he created you special. And you might be looking at other people and like, yeah, but I'm not as special as that person is. No. God didn't say, well, I made my best one over here, but I'll make you in her image, but she's the special one. No, he didn't make you in her image. He made you in his image. He made you specific. He made you special. And by the way, I want to let you know, man did not create woman. God did. Amen. So do not let mankind tell you what a woman is. God created you. God created you special and intentionally. God created you. Mankind doesn't get to define who you are. God already did that. And he kind of knew what he was talking about. God knew who you were. He made you that way. He defined what you are. Look at Genesis chapter 2 and verse 18. It says, and the Lord God said, it is not good that man should be alone. I will make him a helper comparable to him. You're not second class. You are comparable. Now we've got this society, and it's been this way for as long as history goes on, where, I am man, hear me roar. You guys familiar with that? I am man, hear me roar. Woman, you know what your place is, and you got to stay in your place. You know all that stuff. God did set up an order. He did set up an order, and I don't want to take away from that. But a lot of times what we define as that order, I'm the man of the house. You will do as I say. Where does the Bible say that you're supposed to do what he said? You see, you have an authority that actually trumps his authority. God puts you in a specific situation. Maybe you are the wife, the mother of your household. But do you know you answer to a higher authority than your husband? And if your husband is going against that authority, that's when you can say you got to check yourself before you wreck yourself. Because we have a higher authority. We've got to follow him. I'll follow you as you follow him, but you got to follow him. Because I have a higher authority than you. I can understand the order that God placed things in, but that doesn't take my responsibility away from him. I've got to follow him. You're not second class. God made you comparable. That's why he said, I'm going to make somebody comparable. Not less than, comparable to him. God created you in his image, and that's the image you're to reflect. That's the one you're supposed to reflect. Another important point is that God did not create a wife. Did you know that? God created a wife for Adam. No. He created a woman. Whether you're a wife or not, you still have purpose, you still have value. He didn't create a wife for Adam. He created a woman, and then he brought her to Adam. Then she became a wife. A wife is one of the many jobs she can do, not her identity. You have so much value. You have so much value. Women have just as much value as men have. God did not say, okay, made Adam, so therefore he's the best I got. Now think about it for just a second. God made a dirt pile, and that's where man came from. Here's a bunch of dirt. That's man. Where did women come from? God said, okay, I'm going to take a little bit of time here. I'm going to put you to sleep, Adam. I'm going to do surgery on you. And I'm going to take part of who you are, the rib. I'm going to take the rib, and I'm going to form a woman. You kicked up dust, and that's where I come from, and seems a lot more detail went into her. She's special too. I show you my power by kicking up dust. I show you my love and affection by making you both. But you both have detail. You're both special. You're both special. You have just as much value as men do, and do not ever let anybody tell you any other thing about this. You are valuable. You are special. You are just as important. God created each one of us to reflect him in different ways. We are created in his image. When a person loses sight of the value that God gives them, they always try to find that value in something else or someone else. Because we all want to feel loved. We all want to be valued. We all want to feel accepted. Our true value comes from God, and there's no other source that can replace that. Please understand this. There's no other source that can replace the value that God has for you. Look at Jeremiah 1:5 and take this verse very personally. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I set you apart. Ladies, God made you incredible. I watch what my wife does. I'm like, there is no way. There is no way. She finds a way. She says, hey, could you go grab the drink out of the refrigerator? And I'm in there for 24 hours. Like, there is no drink in this refrigerator. And then she walks by and goes, this one. I'm like, where'd that come from? That's amazing. They have superpowers. You have superpowers. You are incredible people. You are incredible. You are special. And I want you to know that society may tell you that you have to look a certain way, that you may have to act a certain way or you may have to carry yourself in a certain way. That is the value society gives you. That's the value that society says you can have if you can just meet that standard. You know the pictures on the magazines. You know the people they select to be in the movies. And you look at that body type or you look at that beautiful lady and you say, that is what true beauty is in society. That's what society tells you value consists of. God tells you that He's the one who made you. I made you. I set you apart from everybody else before you were even born. I gave you your value. I gave you all the value you could possibly possess. Why are you trying to find value from something else? He created you to fall in love with Him and to find your value in that relationship. That's where you're going to find true value. If Satan can get you to put that relationship on the back burner, he can make a religion out of anything. Please, everybody catch that. If Satan can get you to put that relationship to the side, then he can make a religion out of anything. It can be cosmetics. I've seen women that they need those cosmetics. Why? You're pretty just the way you are. Why? If it makes you feel pretty, go ahead and do it. There's no crime in that. But if you feel that you need it in order to be satisfactory, then you've put too much weight into that. You don't need that. You don't need that. Maybe he can make a religion out of a certain body type. If you had a certain body type, then you would be valuable, then you would be better. Maybe it's whether you have a man in your life or not. Oh, I would be valuable if I had this, but I don't have that, so therefore I don't have the value. Maybe it's what other women think of you. Maybe that's where you find the value. I want you to realize something. Before God brought Eve to Adam, she already had a relationship with him. She already had a relationship. God created her and gave her value. Have you ever gone to an archery range? I'm going to explain the picture that's been popping up on the screen here. You ever gone to an archery range or seen them on TV or whatever? When you get to an archery range, you look out at quite a distance because they want you to put distance between the arrow and the target. But you look way out there, you see all those targets out there. They are battered, they are beat up, they're full of holes, they've been abused. Really abused. Then they'll bring out a fresh piece of paper and put it over that board that has all those holes, or that haystack or whatever you're shooting at, that has all those holes and that's falling apart out there. And they put a fresh piece of paper up there, but people shoot at that one too. And you look out there and it's so damaged out there. God did not make you a target for the world to shoot at. Ladies, please take this. God did not make you a target for the world to shoot at. He made you the arrow, and He shot you into the world. You're the one that's supposed to make the impact. It is not supposed to go the other way. Do not let it go the other way. Find your value in Him. If somebody says, you're the target, watch out, I'm the arrow. God made me to be the arrow, not the target. I make the impact. You don't make an impact on me. I make an impact on the world for Christ. God formed me. He set me apart before the world began. He thought of me personally. Before I was born, He gave me my value, and He set me apart. You're not to be abused. You have value. You have value. The woman in Mark chapter 5 didn't care about what the crowd thought that day. She just wanted to go to the one person that she knew would give her value. You can give me that place in society that nobody else can give me. Moms, you do so much for your families. You do so much for your families. You would think that 9 months of carrying your kid would have taken you to a status where you would have never had to lift another finger for as long as you live. You would think that would have happened, but you keep going and you keep loving and you keep sacrificing. And at the same time, society may condemn you or make you feel like you're less than enough. Society they do a good job with this. They might make you feel like you're less than enough. You might feel like a failure as a mom, or you might feel like you're not enough and you need to do more. I know you carry that a lot. But before you believe that you only have the value that society places on you, I want you to consider one other source. In the book of Revelation, we see a description of a huge host gathering around God. And I want you to notice what they're saying. They are worshiping God. I want you to notice what they're saying. Revelation chapter 4 and verse 11 says, "You are worthy, O Lord, to receive glory and honor and power, for you created all things, and by your will they exist and were created." Ladies, the reason you were created is because God willed you to be here. He chose you. He made you specifically. You weren't just a byproduct of relationships. You were detailed for a relationship with God. He specifically made you. The reason you were created is because He willed you. He chose you to be here. He made you perfect, He made you valuable, and He wants you to understand that value. The only way you will ever be able to truly understand your value is if you understand where you get that value from. It is God. You are so valuable. You are so valuable. The woman with the issue of blood gave something to Jesus the same moment Jesus gave something to her. She yielded and submitted to a relationship. She said in her heart, He's the answer. He's the answer. She chose Him. She chose Him. The system told her that she was less than what she was. The system told her that she needed to be separated, that she needed to be isolated, that she wasn't good enough. But she overrode the system by realizing that Jesus was the answer. Even if she had to go against society to get to Him, she knew that's where she was going to find her value. Mothers, it's so important that you understand your value, because the women of this generation are teaching the women of the next generation where they get their value. You have to understand your value or you'll never help them understand theirs. He's where we get our value. He is where we get our value. You're the arrow, not the target. The system tells you that you're only valuable if you do certain things or look a certain way. Well, override the system. Go ahead. Override the system. Your value comes from your Creator, not from society, not what people say. Your value comes from your Creator. And men, we need to make sure they understand their value. Make sure they know you are fearfully and wonderfully made, and before you were even in your mother's womb, God set you apart. You are valuable. Make sure they know they are valuable. You're not just a certain woman. You're a daughter of the King. And with that, please go ahead, break the rules, override the system.